I knew he was a man of high integrity that a lot of people in the coaching realm had a lot of respect for.
I mean, he instilled in us a work ethic and a desire to be the best on the planet every day we step on that field, no matter where we step on that field.
I think it was the perfect coach for us, for a young team with a lot of talent that he brought together.
I am fortunate, really, that I came here with Tony, because I've never met a more humble yet intense, genuine person.
He was a guy who challenged his players and expected us to be men, young men, and held us to a standard I think only made me a better person overall.
Good afternoon. I'm thrilled to be standing here today to talk about one of the truly special men who helped transform the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tony Dungy. In order to truly appreciate his accomplishments and gain perspective on his life, on and off the football field, it's best to start at the beginning of his NFL journey. In 1977, Tony was an undrafted college free agent attempting to break into the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers, all while switching positions from quarterback to safety. The Steel Curtain was the most dominant defense of its era, but despite the long odds, Tony made the roster. 1 year later, he would lead the team in interceptions on his way to winning Super Bowl XIII. There are many words you could use to describe Tony Dungy: broadcaster, humanitarian, man of faith, family man, best-selling author, and Hall of Famer, just to name a few. However, it was a supreme work ethic and a desire to prove himself as a player that also defined his coaching career once his playing days were over. Following our family's first year of ownership heading into the 1996 season, the Bucs were trying to break a streak of 13 years without a playoff appearance. We sat down with my father and realized we had to plot a new course for this franchise, and we needed a head coach that could foster a winning culture. Tony arrived in Tampa with a reputation as a mastermind of some very good defenses in Minnesota, but had never had a head coaching position before. It didn't take him very long to figure it out. In his first season, Tony posted a 6-10 record. That was his only losing season in 13 years as a head coach. But despite the losing record, you could see we were building something very special. We won 5 of our last 7 games that year, and our defensive ranking went from 27th to 11th. And we headed into the offseason with heightened expectations. In 1997, we charged out of the gate with a 5-0 record, and it led to that magical wild card night where we played the Detroit Lions to close the stadium. It was the first of 4 playoff appearances in the next 5 years, something this organization had never accomplished before his arrival. Under Tony's leadership and with the help of his trusted defensive coordinator, Monty Kiffin, the Tampa 2 became a signature defense. The Bucs ranked in the top 10 in total defense and points allowed in each of Tony's final 5 seasons. And he really shaped the identity of our entire organization. Tony's accomplishments as our head coach are long and distinguished, but even more impressive was the way in which he led. Regardless of the situation, Tony was calm and steady, and he always conveyed a sense of quiet confidence. Under his leadership, the team fed off that confidence, and success followed. After winning the Super Bowl as a player on that 1978 Steelers team, he followed up with a second Super Bowl victory as the coach of the Colts in the 2006 season. And in 2016, he received his ultimate crowning achievement with his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Despite his overwhelming accomplishments at every level of professional football, many of his greatest achievements have come off the field. The Dungy Family Foundation, which Tony and his wife Lauren founded, have established a strong presence and made a profound impact in Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and in Tampa. In addition to that, Tony has a long and well-documented history of working with Athletes in Action, All-Pro Dad, Family First, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Abron Ministries, Mentors for Life, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club, and it goes on and on and on. His impact in the Tampa Bay area reaches far beyond his legacy as one of the greatest Buccaneers of all time, and we are proud and privileged to have Lauren, Tony, and his entire family as members of our community. My father always had a special relationship with Tony. They would always have long conversations, usually about life and family, things that mattered greatly to both of them. And I'm so pleased that they will be reunited in the Ring of Honor. We all look forward to a very special Monday Night Football game at Raymond James Stadium on September 24th, where the whole community can pay tribute to a Buccaneer legend and the 12th member of our Ring of Honor, Tony Dungy.
Wow. Just have to say it's awesome to be here. It's a special day for me. I got a chance to come here this morning and speak to the team right here. Got a chance to watch practice and just think about what has happened in the last 22 years. And for Brian to stand here and read some of those things off, it just brings some unbelievable memories. And we were having lunch just a few minutes ago, Brian, Darcy, and Brian Ford and I. And Darcy asked about, what do you remember? What are those special moments? And there were a lot of them, but I remember just coming here and talking to Mr. Glazer and saying, we want to get our team connected back to the city. We want to get people excited about the Buccaneers again. We want our guys to be part of the community and doing things right. And by the way, we want to win. And to see that come to fruition, it's been amazing. You think about coaching a winning season, you think about getting to the playoffs, you think about getting to the Super Bowl, all those things that you hope and dream about. It's not even in your mind to go in the Ring of Honor. It's an awesome, awesome tribute and honor for myself and my family. I'm proud of that, and I'm grateful. Thank God that I got a chance to come here, and I'm thankful for the people that I came in contact with. Had some tremendous players, some of them here today, and I obviously wouldn't be standing here without those guys, so I'm appreciative of them. But it starts really with the relationship you have with the people you work with and work for. And that started with Mr. Glazer and went all the way down through. Brian didn't mention one of the biggest moments was my first year when we were 0-5, and he and Joel came and said they wanted to take me out to lunch. They needed to see me. And I was not expecting anything but the worst at that point. We hadn't done the things that we had hoped to do, and things hadn't turned out well on the field. And we went to lunch, and they said, we see the progress we're making. We just want you to know we're 100% behind you. That was one of the greatest moments of my time here, knowing that we were in it together, we were in it for the long run, and you had the support of the people who worked with you. And it was just an awesome time being here. My family, our kids have grown up here. We've gotten connected with the community. People ask me now what's my hometown, and even though I was born in Jackson, Michigan, my hometown is Tampa, and that's what you hope for. It's been very, very special, and the night of the 24th is going to put a cap on things. When I think of the Buccaneers Ring of Honor, I've said it a few times, I think of Leroy Selman. That was the first name up there, and to me that's what Buccaneer football is all about. A special person on the field and a special person off the field, and he set the bar very high because to be enshrined with him and what he represented for this franchise in this city is very special and unique. So I'm honored and thankful and grateful for this, and looking forward to the 24th. And can't thank the Buccaneers and the Glazer family enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead and open it up to questions. If you could Tony, when you reflect back on your 6 years here as head coach of the Bucs, what do you look back as your singular achievement here in Tampa?
I really think it's the type of players we had. I remember the very first meeting that we had with the team, and I said, you know, I'm your new coach. We're here to win a Super Bowl. That's our goal. But more than that, we want to win it the right way. We want you guys to be part of the community. We want you to be role models. We want you to make Tampa a better place to live, not just for 3 hours a week on Sunday, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What can you do to make the community better? And so many of these guys that are sitting here today have done that. They've made it a better place to live. And the way they conducted themselves and the way they played football and got the community to connect with the Bucs, I think that was the biggest accomplishment. It was great to get us back on the winning track and that, but I think the type of young men that we had was the defining thing.
Hey, Coach, this is Melissa Thomas of Florida National News. Given your legacy of both, inspiring folks to be better people and your faith, I wanted to know what advice do you have for the young men that are in the NFL that want to express their faith but also have respect for the sport at the same time?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions about that, and I think it's important. I know we've had a lot of talk about the anthem and what is going on during the national anthem, and I always encouraged our guys, if you're going to make Tampa a better place to live, we want you to do things in the community. Then when they have feelings that need to be expressed, we can't say, well, don't express those feelings. Don't try to make our country better. Don't try to make Tampa a better place to live. We only want you to do it our way. You've got to embrace that. And so I think you do have a responsibility to do what you think is necessary to help make the situation better, but do it in the right way. And I think what we've got to get back to is everybody working together. What's the goal? And if the goal is to make our city better, our country better, we can find ways to do that. And that's what I would, and I do encourage the young men to do that. Find a way to make things better.
Staff here in Tampa, it turned a lot of heads because a lot of people hadn't heard of these coaches before.
Yeah, no, I got a lot of criticism about that because people were looking for, including some people who are still standing here, right? But people looking for names and people they knew, and I knew there were a lot of good coaches out there who weren't known and weren't well known, like I wasn't well known at the time. And then from the diversity angle too. I mean, one of my proudest things of my career is Lovie Smith and Jim Caldwell and Mike Tomlin and going to Super Bowls and Herm Edwards and Leslie Frazier, getting guys opportunities who weren't household words, but they got a chance to show what they could do. And I thought that was important, especially at the time. It wasn't a matter of just giving African-American guys an opportunity, but it was of letting people know how good some of these guys were and giving them a chance to show what they could do. And I'm very proud of that.
And Tony, and being out here today, was some maybe the guys that really stood out to you, impressed you as individual players?
Well, there's a lot of time. I was watching the offense more so because I know the defensive guys. O.J. Howard, I was stunned at how big he is and how athletic. Of course, the big wide receivers, and got a chance to see Mike Evans. Those guys stand out. But I think there's talent all the way across the board. Brent Grimes, on the other hand, I didn't know how small he was. And he's making plays and going up and getting a chance to see that. I said, boy, this guy is unique. But there's a lot of energy and a lot of athleticism, and which is what I like.
How meaningful has it been for you to have such an impact on the lives of so many young men over the course of your career?
I think that's the biggest thing. We're coming back from the Hall of Fame ceremony. I was riding the bus and happened to be riding next to John Randall on the way back to the hotel, and he said, I just want to tell you something. I never got a chance to say it when you left, but you helped me grow as a person, and you definitely helped me as a player. But I appreciate the way you guided us as a person, and to have guys say that and to, I mean, that's what it's all about. To me, that's coaching and, you know, what I'm probably, you know, excited about.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Tony.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I we got some players that I think should go in before me. So the fact that you're in, and I guess we've kind of debated this, whether you go in on the first ballot or the second ballot or the third ballot, I don't think it makes a difference.
Coach Brian mentioned the 13 seasons that this team did not make it to the playoffs until you got here. They're in double digits again. Do you give them any advice on how to change this losing culture?
You know, I talked to the team this morning, and we talked about that a little bit. And so the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cleveland Browns is about that much. And you just have to be on point on the details. And it's not talent, but it's a mindset and the discipline and the focus, and that's what's going to determine whether the team gets there. They're talented enough, and you see that, but it's being focused in and dialed in, and hopefully they get there.
Tony, you touched on this.
What kind of reception did you get from the players?
You know, it's hard to say, but pretty good. I think they, you know, recognize who you are and the fact that what you're saying does have some validity, some history behind it, and it was great. It was fun for me, but it brought back memories. It brought back memories of being in here for the first time in '96 and speaking to that team about what we wanted to do and how to do it. And it was the same advice. It's, you know, whatever this is, 22 years later.
Tony, you touched on this franchise giving you an opportunity when you waited for it. You've received a lot of honors, but the fact that they gave you the opportunity, does that separate this honor from many you've received?
It really does. I mean, for the first organization that you had a chance to lead, and they recognize you and say, hey, you're one of the people we want to remember, that's pretty special. And as I say, brought back great memories. But I can remember sitting with Mr. Glazer and talking about what we wanted to do and how we wanted to connect this franchise, and we wanted to get the stadium built, and just different things along the way, and seeing it come to fruition, and it's great. It's awesome.
Jameis Winston suspended the first 3 games of the season. How do you look at that situation? In his future?
I look at it as something my dad would always tell me. He would answer that question with the same phrase all the time. What are you going to do now to make the situation better? And I think that's where we are, and that's where Jameis is. Okay, we could look back on and debate and why it happened and all the negatives, but it's where we are. And what does he have to do now to be that leader on and off the field that the Buccaneers need? He's got to figure that out, and he's got to mature, and he's got to make this negative situation and turn it into a positive. And I saw some things on the field today that led me to believe that's what he's trying to do. Now he's got to carry that off the field as well. But it can be a positive.
How can you do that, especially like you've said, you know, you've got to be able to win in the community?
Well, and it comes down to being that person and understanding. And I mentioned that to the players too. I have 5 boys still in the house, and they look at these guys and they watch everything they do. They want to be Buccaneers. They want to mimic everything these guys do. And the players have to understand that. They have a chance to be tremendous role models and tremendous positive influence. And hopefully that's the case. But for Jameis, he's got to be a leader all the time. He's a great leader on the field. He's a great leader in the locker room. He's a great leader when he's here. And now he's got to take it on his shoulders to lead off the field and away from the building as well. And I'm praying he'll do that.
Tony, how pleased are you to share this night with the Steelers organization and Coach Tomlin?
Well, that's the Lord there. It couldn't have worked out any better. I mean, you couldn't draw it up any better. The organization that I started with and spent my first 10 years really with, to be there in the Rooney family and, you know, all of what Coach Noel meant to me. And then Mike Tomlin, who, you know, is coaching the other team. I mean, it's like drawing up a fairy tale. So it's going to be pretty special and a great reunion we're going to have with all the guys from the old staff and everybody that can be here, and then having Mike, who wouldn't have been able to be here otherwise, having him to share it, it'll be special.
You mentioned the anthem in passing while you were talking today, the anthem protests and whatnot. I mean, there's been a lot of dust-ups about that from the president to players and whatnot. How do you look at all that?
We really have to understand what these athletes are trying to do, and that's what gets lost in the dialogue. They're not trying to defame the flag. They're not trying to defame the military or first responders. We can build a whole narrative about that, but that's not what they're trying to do. These guys see some things going on in their communities, and they're trying to make the situation better. And we can debate whether they should do that or when they should do it, but these guys are very, very patriotic, and they're doing it because they care. Now, where I kind of fault the NFL, I think we need to be working together on this, and I've said if I was still coaching, my first meeting of the year, I would have them come to me and say, what are your concerns? What is really on your mind? What do you want to say? And what are your solutions? And then I'm going to give you 10 minutes of my press conference to get that out. So you won't have to use 3 minutes before the game when nobody can hear you. But I'm going to give you the platform that you want to be a voice for those who don't have a voice. And if there's more things on your mind next week, I'll give you 10 minutes of my press conference next week. To me, it's pretty simple. But
our president might disagree. Loudly. You never know.
He has. But I think that's what you do when you're trying to figure out solutions. You talk to people, you give them a forum, and you find out. And if I was president, one of the first things I would say is, gosh, we've got some young men who are very, very powerful figures in this country, and they're upset about something. I need to find out what they're upset about. So let me call them and see if we can come and have a discussion rather than just say they're doing the wrong thing, they shouldn't do this. I think if you're a leader, you try to figure out solutions.
Is that really the fault in this, the fact that there haven't been those discussions between players and between the president?
Well, I think what's happened is everybody has taken and tried to make it their issue. And the players have said, here's what's wrong, here's what we see is wrong. And other people have said, well, they shouldn't be doing it at this time. It's wrong to do it during the national anthem. And so we haven't focused on what really the issues are. And it's just communication.
Tony, when you walked out on that field for the first time, it obviously wasn't the same turf that you used to walk onto the practice field. Has there ever been an itch, since you retired, of wanting to get back out there? It's been 10 years since John Gruden has done it.
No, I never had an itch. When I went out there, though, it was pretty neat to be in a training camp environment, and it was neat to see, wow, this has changed. This is different than when we were at training camp, and to see but that's another one of those special memories. I remember going into our first game in '96, and some people in the front office, Mr. Glazer and Rich McKay, saying that we really need a good game. We've got the vote on Tuesday, and we want to stay here. And we lost 35-3. And I remember thinking, gosh, I've messed up the whole city and everything. And Tuesday night, we're game planning, getting ready for the next week, and I'm watching, and it's 51-49, 50 and a half, 49 and a half. And when I knew we were going to stay, it was one of the best feelings, because you wanted it to end up like this, with great facilities and stadium that people enjoyed and a team that people could be proud of. So to see it 22 years later and say, man, we have come away since 1996. It was pretty special.
John had to scratch his itch. Gruden had to scratch that itch. Can you understand that?
I can. Yeah, I definitely can. For me, and I'd always tell the players too, when I talk to older players, you can't just retire from football. You have to have something to retire to. And I've retired to some different things. I enjoy what I do with NBC, but I enjoy reading with my wife Lauren to second graders on Tuesday, and I enjoy being with my kids, and I enjoy working with All Pro dads. So I've got some things that help fulfill me in life, and for me, I don't need to scratch the football itch because I got a few other things that I'm scratching.
Some of your greatest honors, Super Bowl with Coach Lovie Smith, and then now this night you get to kind of share with Mike Tomlin a little bit. How special is that, the fact that you get to share those moments with people that you paved the way for to be able to coach?
Well, that is pretty awesome too, and be able to share it with our players and staff and coaches. I mean, it's awesome. The Bucs have invited everybody back who played for me, who was on the staff at that time in any capacity, who coached. So we'll get to have a reunion and kind of share it with everyone as well as my family. And that's what's special. You know, you build memories with people. And it certainly isn't something that you did in a solo career, but to be able to think back to all the people that were here and went into it, it's going to be awesome. And to have Mike there, again, it's going to be very, very special.
What kind of job do you think John will do?
I think he's going to be great. Now, what he's going to have to get adjusted to is how you have to coach now. And the guys that I talk to that are still in the game, well, you can't do this, you can't practice in pads twice in a row, and you can't do this, and you can't do this. He's going to have to adjust to that different style. But as far as calling the games, knowing what to do, installing things, motivating people, you don't lose that, and he's going to be great at that.
Tony, what impresses you about this Bucs team? You've seen them, you see the talent?
I like their speed, and the thing, I was talking to Jason Light out there in practice, and he said he really feels good and feels like he's got some game changers in the defensive line. He thought that's what was missing, and he's got some guys who can make that one play that you need to turn the momentum of a game or to make a stop on the last drive that you need. And I'm looking forward to watching those guys rush in live game situations. But they've got some offensive weaponry. What's going to happen is they've got to have that togetherness. One of the things I told them is talent is, it's not overrated, but it's not the most important thing. Probably I had 7 teams in Indianapolis, and our Super Bowl team, talent-wise, was probably number 5, maybe number 4, but it wasn't the most talented, but it was the most together.
What's Mike James' suspension? Do you think this is a playoff team?
I think they can be. When you look at the NFC, there's probably 10 or 12 teams that you wouldn't be crazy if you said they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. No one was talking about Philadelphia at this time last year as, hey, that's the dominant team in the NFC by far. And I just think there's a lot of good teams. Unfortunately, 3 of them are in this division as well, which is going to make it tough. But I remember '97, we opened up with San Francisco, and we had to go to Detroit and Minnesota, and everybody's saying, oh, well, if they can overcome that 0-3 start, maybe they got a chance. And you know, it's how you play on the field and how you play on Sundays.
A lot of people are thinking this team's going to have a hard time not starting out in 3. I mean, you've been there. I mean,
and it could happen that way, but it could just as easily be 3-0. And that's the thing that I think the players have to do, is block out the noise and focus in on their coaches and their direction, and they might surprise some people.
So who are you picking that Monday night game?
Who am I picking that Monday night game? I'll let you know about 4 o'clock that day.
How important was it for you? I mean, we talk about the Super Bowl and everything, and the Hall, Ring of Honor and Hall of Fame and everything, but to be able to open doors for people, for other coaches that otherwise maybe wouldn't have gotten those opportunities. I mean, I remember when you assembled your
And again, that was just a blessing. And some things you can take credit for, and some things you just have to credit the Lord for. And I knew a couple of people. I'd worked with Monty, I'd coached against Mike Shula, coached against Joe Marciano, and I knew those guys. But there were a lot of guys that I didn't know. And one of the first things I did was sit down with our college scouts and say, hey, I'm looking for some good teachers. Who's out there in college football? And I didn't know Rod Marinelli and Lovie Smith and Mike Tomlin and Charlie Williams. And that was just really a blessing from the Lord that, you know, I got these names. You you talk to guys and interview them and say, wow, they're on the same wavelength as I am, how to play the game, how to teach, how to encourage. And we had a tremendous staff. Herm Edwards, I knew, but a lot of guys I didn't. And they were a big, big part of what we're able to do here. So, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Tony, congratulations on this achievement. Scott Reynolds, PeterReport.com. Just wanted to ask you, you've had a couple of your former players, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp in the Hall of Fame joining you, a couple other guys perhaps on the horizon, John Lynch, Ronde Barber. Can you talk about their candidacy? I would assume you would endorse those guys.
I have, and definitely feel that, and I'm hoping that Ronde and John don't fall victim to we've got a couple of Buccaneers in already, how many can we put in? Two tremendous, not only tremendous players, but tremendous people. They were a big part of what we did, and the numbers that those guys put up are numbers that are Hall of Fame worthy. But more than that, how they played the game, how they led, what they meant to our team, they should be there, and I'm confident that they'll get there.
Last question. Tony, could you talk a little bit about your '99 team? Maybe one bad call away from making it to the Super Bowl. How good was that team? You've coached a lot of teams and won a Super Bowl. How good was that team?
That '99 team was very good, and they persevered through a lot. We got off to a 3-4 start, but they didn't get deterred, and they were mentally tough. We had some excellent players. We were unified, and we got close. We really did. It just was kind of a shame that our offensive tackles couldn't play in those playoffs, and we had those injuries, which everyone gets. But I will go to my grave thinking, if Paul and Jason hadn't gotten hurt, we would have been in the Super Bowl. But it was a great team. It was a fun team to coach, and a team that I'm very proud of.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take just a quick second to get the stage ready.
How did you reconcile that with today, and how did you?
I was fired from here, but I was also hired here. And I was hired when I had never been a head coach, and the other 31 teams, no one else gave me a chance. And Mr. Glazer and Brian and Joel and Rich McKay decided I was their man. And I appreciated that, and I'll always appreciate that. And I was hired to do a job, and I did it the best that I could. And we were in lockstep, and we moved forward, and we went a long ways, not as far as we wanted to. I was fired, and I didn't look at that as a negative necessarily. I just looked at that as God moving me to another spot and another place that He had for me. And I can't say that I wasn't disappointed. I was disappointed, and that we didn't achieve every goal that we set. But it was a great experience for me. We kept our house here. We always knew we were coming back to Tampa. We always knew we were going to be part of the community. And that was a football decision, but it wasn't a life decision.
Coach, congratulations. I know you talked about it was the players. What about some of the coaches? Monty Kiffin, a lot of those coaches went on.
Fans go into the stadium and see your name up on the stadium. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want the fans, the first thing to come into their mind when they see Tony Dungy up there?
Well, I hope they remember me as someone who helped shape the course of the franchise. And got people excited about Tampa football again. I hope they remember me as a coach who had very good teams but had some great young men playing, and that I tried to lead those young men in the right way, in the right direction, and that my focus wasn't just on winning games, but it was on being the best that we could be on and off the field. And if they think that, I'd be happy.
Tony, congratulations and thanks for all you've done for our community and all of us knuckleheads here in the media as well. And to that point, how did you stay true to your principles when you were 0-5 and some of the struggles that you went through when the media was criticizing you? How did you stay true to your principles?
I think you have to really understand that you have to be who you are and you have to do what you believe in, and that's what I always preach to the players. There's a million ways to win. We're going to have one way that I'm going to do it, and we've got to get everybody to believe in that. So I always felt if I changed course and tried to do something different, it would really destroy the message. So I'd grown up with Coach Noel and the Steeler way of doing things, and that's the way I thought was best. And I wanted to do that and stay true to it, and that was always the message behind it. And fortunately, I prayed a lot and during that time that it would start to work, and then eventually it did. But we had guys who bought in and stayed with it, and they made it easy because they followed along and they didn't buck the system at all, and that helped.
Tony, you're always learning along the way. You learn life. Well,